cock look big in these jeans, man?
and we're live today on April 13th, 2020. I'm Matt Gibson. This is the Kingdom of Rock, and we are here with Mr. Michael Molenda and the iconic Steve Lukather. How's it going, guys?
Hey, man. I'm with the iconic Mike Molenda, man, who's been my pal for a long time, and I cherish that friendship. Oh. And Matt, it's nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too, brother.
It's interesting that I'm doing this right now because I normally haven't been doing any interviews, but since Michael was involved, I couldn't say no. And he said that you're a pretty nice guy for an axe murderer.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm reformed. I'm trying to turn my life around, you know.
Well, we all have. I had to do that myself.
He's calmed down on the burials in the backyard of late, I hear. So I think we're okay.
I have a dog now that just keeps digging them up, so I had to stop.
So, as everybody knows, we're in the middle.
What this is, I mean, we're hanging out on what day is it today? Monday of all days.
Yeah, Monday.
It's April, and this is the weirdest time in the history of humanity, as far as I know.
Yeah, where you at, Steve?
I don't know what to say. I mean, everybody's sitting at home, just shaking their head, going, "This can't be really happening," and it is really happening.
Well, I thought it was interesting, and I really appreciated all the stuff that you were doing for us, with your AB5. And it,
man, can you believe this? I mean, it's the most obscene. It's a perfect example of our supposed, what do you call them, leaders? They're not leaders or whatever. Our representatives not reading what they sign, because you make 300 pages of it and you go like, okay, do you really read every paragraph, man? Now this cat got caught with his pants down because he's ruined lives. I mean, what happens to the day-to-day musician? Well, I mean, people, they're going to leave Los Angeles. They're going to leave California. And, what happens when that happens? Everybody loses their job. I mean, the musicians union. Don't get me started with these guys.
I just thought it was awesome that you kind of joined the fight for that, which we appreciated. Well, and of course, that was all we had to worry about a couple of months ago. And now that now that pandemic drops in the middle of it right after that, it's like, talk about getting kicked in the balls twice.
Well, the scary thing is just it's hard enough to make a living, as a musician, a day-to-day musician. Guys that are making their living, doing gigs, any kind of gigs. You know what I mean? When I was younger, I'd do anything from a wedding to a demo session to whatever. And thank God for streaming. I mean, streaming in the sense of people being able to work from home and share files. That's a positive thing. But how do you get paid? What happens with that? Now, where were our union representatives when this shit was going on? I'm sorry, am I allowed to swear? I didn't really.
Yes, be yourself.
Where are these guys? Where are the representatives? I mean, didn't anybody call this out? Did anybody read this thing before they signed it? Obviously not, because it's not even just musicians. It's like anybody that's an independent contractor, any kind of artist. If you're a graphic designer, if you work independently, unless you're signed up to a company where you have you work for CBS or something like that, or a legitimate. I don't know what they're going to do with this, because they have to repeal it. They have to do something. Otherwise, the amount of income that's going to be lost in terms of taxes and everything. I mean, it hits everybody. If you're an independent musician, I mean, people are going to, if you're playing a club gig, do you think they're going to want to sign up every band individually as an employer? The paperwork involved in that to make a couple $100 or something like that if you're lucky. Well, I don't know how this backfire. I mean, what you guys? What's your take? I've been yapping my mouth here. What's your take?
I think the ironic thing is that what's the perfect job to have in a pandemic is to be a freelancer, and if you live in California, that option may have been taken off the table.
Seems so. First off, there's nowhere to go play, so that's a moot point now. The question is, how long is this going to last? And then when it comes back, what happens then? I mean, this would be a real nice time for everybody to take the time to try to fix this. Now, ask me if I know how to do that. I don't. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just, everybody's sitting there going, uh-oh, this happened. How do we fix it? And no one's coming up with anything because the pandemic hit, and that was the only thing. Now that's the only thing that anybody wants to talk about. It's like, are we going to live through this to have a gig at the end of the day? Now that's extreme and obviously not going to happen that way, but a lot of people their lives are being affected. I've lost a few people already from this. There are people that are sick right now. I mean, who knows? Nobody knows what this is and how long it's going to be. Like, what's your take, guys?
Well, we just talked, well, everything's moving so fast. I mean, we're learning something every day, When Matt first started this, we had musicians saying, oh, yeah, we're going to start touring in May. Well, that's not going to happen. Now we hear that, I think Live Clear Channel just put out that they're probably canceling everything through the summer to the fall, I think.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing going to happen this year, man.
It's changing. It's changing every day. It's hard to.
Here's the bad part. The bad part is all the people that had tours this year, the way the cycle works, they're going to want to change all those dates to next year. And then people that were going to have dates this year, there's going to be like a log jam trying to get venues. And the other really obvious one is due to the loss of income and or jobs even. How much disposable income is there going to be? And you think people are going to pay $200, $300 for a freaking ticket? From the people that I work with and the high-end people in the agencies and the people that I know, the answer is there's going to be a complete restructure of the music business as we now know it.
One of our listeners out there, Roddy Chong, he used to be Shania Twain's violin player, and he tours with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He suggested tour China, right? During that time, that might be a way to
tour China.
Yeah, maybe those venues will be options at that point for some bands.
I went there with Ringo about a year and a half ago, and me and Colin Hay from Men at Work, dear brother, amazing talent. We something got screwed up with our work permits, and these guys treated us like we were murderers or something like that. They were screaming at us, and they were not friendly at all. And it was a miserable experience. Touring China is a little harder. You need to get work permits up the butt, man. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And I don't know what's going to happen now that there seems to be a little bad blood between the two countries in terms of the political thing. Picking the wrong people at the wrong time. I don't want to get into politics because, it's so polarizing. And it's, to be honest with you, I don't know which team I belong to at this point, in the sense of the insanity of it all. I don't want to start getting hate mail from people going, I make one opinion about a broad stroke subject and everybody starts in on you, call it name calling already, which is not really productive, Let's just, I'm all about, let's fix this piece. Let's learn something from this and be kind to each other. Maybe we'll come out of this as better people. But of course, if you lose everything, you're not going to be a real nice guy. And
right,
we have had enough problem with homeless people. Some of these poor homeless people, man, these are guys that are on their second divorce and they're living in a tent underneath the freeway, and then they join a gym for $20 a month and shower there every day and barely scrape by. These guys aren't wino drunks lying on the side of the road. Sure, there are some of these people, but my point is there's going to be a lot more of those kind of people who can't afford to be divorced or can't afford to do this because they don't have any money. And then this is a bigger problem than even just the disease itself. The virus itself. The domino effect of this is just staggering.
Well, speaking of the domino effect too, is you're obviously more tied in than I am, and probably Matt. Have you heard anything about the industry trying to figure out, well, when we open up and let musicians, what are we going to do with meet and greet?
It's going to be. It's not a question of whether we feel like, okay, I feel fine going out on stage and playing. How are you going to get 10,000 people in a room together and look at each other going, do you got it? Do you got it? I mean, is this going to go away, then come back? Very likely.
We had a guy from China that lives in China, Dave Reffitt. He was one of our guests. He's kind of a shredder, you know, neoclassical guy, and he teaches music over there. And he's in China, and what they're doing is they're giving people these scan codes on their phone. So like if you've been tested and you're certified to, you know, go to places, you have to show the scan code on your phone before they'll even let you in there. So it's kind of, I think we're going to start seeing stuff like that. And, you know, maybe just, you know, once you go to your doctor and you don't have symptoms, maybe they can give you some kind of certification, you know.
Right, the mark of the beast, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know,
well, even if we do that though, like Steve said, though, it's more a personal choice. You know, am I going to
rely on, or are you going to have a counterfeit, you know, code? Can you, you know, where there's a possibility of a scam, there will be one, as we all have lived and seen in our lives. That's the scary part. When are people going to start trusting their fellow man? Going, okay, we're all going to the show. I'm fine. I hope everybody else is fine. But if they're not, then all of a sudden there's an outbreak. It's I don't want to name a band because it'll be bad luck if it ever got out. So and so artist, you know, I got sick at that gig, and so did, you know, 100 or 50 people or whatever. You know, you never know. And then all of a sudden we're back to square one. Don't go to concerts anymore. I mean, honest to God, it's going to be harder for us than anyone in the terms of getting people to go back out to shows again. There's going to have to be a cure, a vaccine, or something that's going to ensure that people aren't going to get sick before they want to go to Disneyland. They want to go to do anything. It's not just rock, you know. It's any sporting event. What about sporting events?
Well, let's say it goes to DEF CON 20, and people just don't want to go out to concerts or sporting events or whatever. What do you envision musicians could do to kind of get their
problem? Well, I think what would happen, or one idea that would happen, would be to have, you know, say you buy a virtual show. In other words, we set up in a room with the full production and whatever it is, and people can buy, you know, a live show. We go out and do a 2-hour show, and you tune in. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. That would be the obvious, easiest way to do that. Then but then it's scheduling. How many artists are there? How many people? It's weird. If you could see one artist, you could stay home in LA and watch any artist that you want. Touring per se would be like a one-day affair. You know, if the whole world could see it in one day, you can make the income for one day or 2 days. That's going to hurt the business because we can't afford to put on these shows and only make the income off of one show.
Right.
And the live experience is still different than if you were to see it over a screen. Like we've seen how many of these now that people are putting up with these great videos that are coming up from people just jamming. You know, the Snarky Puppy guys started doing this stuff where they could see each individual guy, and it was really great and interesting. But those guys are on the road trying to make a living too. I really don't know. I mean, I'm asking, or I'm doing the rhetorical question thing, like where I had to say something and there's nothing you can say back because we don't know. I think maybe you should look at guys. You know, I've talked to some of the guys at the biggest agencies and stuff like that. Mark Geiger from WME, who's one of the heaviest cats in the business, and he's our guy, along with Rob Marcus and Brian. But that's, irregardless, it's like, who's going to be the first artist out there? How's this going to work? And that person's going to be in the hot seat. That band, that artist, whoever it's going to be, everyone's going to watch and see what happens. Then there are the people buying the tickets going, well, what if everybody cancels? There's so many cancellations that people are sick and tired of trying to get their money back. Oftentimes when you buy a ticket and it cancels, it's a hassle to get your money back, right? Okay, so people have been hassled a lot and are being hassled on a daily basis. I mean, if you're worried about having something to wipe your ass with, I don't think that fucking going to a show is at the top of your list of problems today.
Right.
I think we're going to have to wait and see, and we're going to have to be patient. And patience is not a virtue of mine, that's for sure. Sorry about the voice. I'm not sick. I've just been yelling a lot out of frustration. I'm yelling at my kids, don't go out, this stuff. So I'm not sick. Trust me. I haven't left my home in over a month. So
well, and how are you dealing with kind of keeping yourself from going absolutely bonkers? I mean, do you have any little projects you're doing, or are you doing virtual sessions?
Finishing a solo record, which was almost completely done. I have one track I was going to cut with Ringo playing drums because I wrote this great song with me, David Page, and Joseph wrote this great song for him to play on. And I put together a killer band for my solo record. Got Greg Bissonet's playing drums, Jurgen Carlson on bass, David Page and Jeff Babco on keyboards, and me on guitar. And I cut all the solos live. Everything's live. I overdubbed the vocals at the end of the day. I cut a couple of favorite things of my youth and did a different twist to it. Not the obvious cover thing. And I wrote a bunch of music with some friends that just turned out really great. I was so excited about it. Now I got it and I can't go finish it. You can do things up to a certain point, but I can't mix a record unless I'm in the same room. You just can't. And plus I have more stuff to, I don't have any more playing to do except for one more song. But and there's things that are up to a certain point, but you can't go any further until this thing is over with, till we get some better information, intelligence on where we should all go next. Where is it today? Every day we all wake up and go, I'm afraid to look at the news today. I hear that beginning when early in the morning you get the ping from your phone, ping, like a message, or okay, what's it going to be today? Oh, hey, but.
I did want to give a shout out, Johnny A. Johnny A is out there watching.
Wait a second, Johnny's one of the finest guitar players ever. Have you seen his whole thing where he does bloopers and all this? He does these incredible versions of Beatles and Stones tunes, one man band, but it doesn't sound cheesed out or anything like that. So that can get a little okay, but his time is so good and the way it feels and it sounds that he's. Go see Johnny A if you haven't. It's an incredible show. And his arrangements are just amazing, and his sound, and is obviously a brilliant player. And he's my friend, and I dig him. Hi, Johnny.
And hey, Steve, you mentioned your son's Trez Record, and we've had a lot of artists on the show who are delaying the release of their record until whenever this stops. What's your feel on that as a business move? Should we just release stuff now, or are we all going to wait and release it all at the same time at the end of this?
These are hard questions to give a definitive answer to, but the obvious part is we can't promote it. I mean, I suppose we could do as much of this kind of stuff in terms of promotion, but you want to go make a video for something, you want to do some promotional stuff that requires people, and nobody wants to be in the same room with anybody. Or if you could do it, but then you're kind of a chump for doing that because you're supposed to stay in. Obey the rules, guys, and we might actually get through this mess. But say if I start cheating and people start cheating and doing stuff, it's counterproductive to ending this virus,
Yeah, true. Well, maybe just why don't you talk about, because I know you're excited about Trez Record. I know he's played his.
I won't say not too much about it because they're talking about changing the name of the band, but it's great. It's the same guys, but it's a great record. It's like I would equate it to like if U2 and Def Leppard had a baby and it was a little funkier. That's about, but it's rock. But it's melodic, and they have a singer that's just incredible. Great band. The drummer was in One Direction, but this kid has got ridiculous chops. But these guys groove and play. There's songs, there's melody. It's great stuff. Obviously, you're going, well, it's your son. Because of that, I stay away from it and just let him do his thing. I don't have any involvement other than just making sure he doesn't get fucked. And I got him hooked up with the right people to do that. So he's got a great label mascot, and he's got a great manager, Steve Guitarist and Keith Hagen. Great bunch of kids, man. I think it's Sam's birthday today. Sam Picaro, Mike Picaro's son. Happy birthday, Sam. My God, how did we get so old? And all I can say is I'm really excited about it for him, but best he waits. And the drag is we all wait to put our records out, and even all the big boys, that are waiting. If all these records come out at once, it's just going to be overkill. I say, I don't care. I like chocolate cake, but I don't like it at every meal. You know what I mean? It's too much. So I think what'll happen is people, are going to want to hear new music. So putting it out may work. I don't know how they're going to do it. We're going to have to change things around or make some kind of a schedule that's fair. And also the people that want to tour when this is over with, there's going to be a glut of that for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to put up we need to eat too. The crew guys, it's not just the artists, the crew guys whose whole summer is based on, they budget their whole year based upon the touring, the summer years, the 4 or 5 months in the middle of the year, they work their ass off, and then they can stay at home and do little bits and pieces to fill in the blanks. Now those guys missed a whole year. What are these guys going to do in, house payments? A lot of people you're going to find out live above their means. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guys that got the bazillion-dollar house and the badass car, or they have a Ferrari and they live in an apartment. They're leasing it, and all of a sudden everybody's going to be like, I have no money, I have no job, what are we going to do? And people have a tendency to get a little crazy when they don't have money for food. And look, this whole panic on toilet paper is like, if it wasn't tragic, it would be funny, because you're thinking like, wait a second. I mean, this virus doesn't cause diarrhea. So,
Right.
I mean, it might, but it's just a bit much when people panic shop.
Yeah.
People go in there like it's the last time they're ever. There's not once been anybody that said they can't get any food. There's just too many people going at once, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, like you said, that's being older is kind of good for that, because
right.
you get into Target an hour early.
Right, it's like I feel like I should probably limp in so it doesn't look so like fuck you. What do you do? Why do you get to go to the front of the line? But I'm 50 years old, so if I got to, I will.
Jeff Watson had a good from Night Ranger. He's
I love Jeff. Well, we're close buddies. I love him to death.
Yeah, he says, "Hey, Thread Brother Luke, what if all artists somehow agree to put out singles only so that the world isn't inundated by a million full albums?"
Jeff's a very brilliant cat, man. He's a very smart man. We talk. We have a little hang called Thread Brothers that he knows what that is. There's a group of us that get together and scream about life, and he's the he's the leader of the hang. So yeah, Jeff, that's a brilliant question, and I think that would be fair. But since when has life been fair? Nobody's gonna, there's a lot of people that I think that's a really great idea, is not to glut everybody with a million things. But at the same time, if somebody's a big fan of an artist, they would buy the record anyway. If you're a new artist, this would really suck. This would be the worst time in the world to be a new artist. That makes me sad, because my own family's involved in that. They're going to have to wait, but it'll be worth the wait. At the same time, established artists are, they've got, hundreds of people on the payroll who just lost their gigs for the year. Now, these are, there's a lot of domino effect that could be very negative here. And I don't want to just be negative. We got to give some positive vibe here. I mean, who am I? I don't know everything. Well, I'm just a guy with an opinion like you and anybody else out there right now.
I think one thing that this is doing is it's bringing people together and talking about things, because right now is the time where we're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to come up with new ways of doing things, at least for the temporary.
No question about it. There's going to be, like I mentioned earlier, there's probably going to be a whole restructuring of the music business in the way that it's just people, in order to rebuild this thing, we're going to have to, us artists are going to go, I'm willing to take less money. I'll go like, look, I just want to play.
Yeah.
It's just killing me. At least I could sit in my house and play. But when you're used to, I'm used to being on the road, 230 some odd days a year. And, for the last 10 years. So it's wonderful to be home for my kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm lucky enough to have a wonderful new girlfriend, and to have new love at a time like this is probably the greatest thing ever. And she had been living with me anyway, and so when this mess started, I get to be with her every day, and she's an incredible cook, so I have that.
Mm.
So we eat really fresh, healthy food, and my youngest son is autistic, so he's 9 now. If he got this thing, it would be horrible because he can't talk and say how it hurts and where it hurts.
Right.
And this is a bad one to get. A
Yeah.
couple of friends of mine are doctors,
Yeah.
and like high-end doctors. So the radiologist, a friend of mine who, like, he's the guy that gets the second opinion. He gives the second opinion. He can find the shadow and go, oh, no, that's nothing. Or your patient's going to die. He's a heavy duty cat. And he goes, you do not want to get this. This is really bad, especially for older people. The lungs. This is not the flu. This is a lung disorder like SARS.
Mm-hmm.
You keep throwing that word flu out there, and people don't. Oh, it's just a flu. Like yet at the same time, where are all the people in the hospitals? We hear about it, but where is the photographic evidence that there's 100 people in the lobbies, in the hallways, other than one shot? Where is this? I saw there were shots of. No, I'm not going to conspiracy out. That would be people are throwing shit at the computer right now, going, "Oh no, he's not going to go there." I'm not. I'm saying there's a lot of question marks right now about everything involved, politically, medically, and maybe, God, just maybe. And I'm saying this to myself. You could take this time to reflect and go, you know what, man? The world's just gotten a little bit out of control in terms of greed, in terms of selfishness. And maybe this time alone, I mean, it's just amazing that you have this many people sitting in their house.
Mm-hmm.
And they, and everyone's doing it out of fear and because they were told to. And considering that 80 some odd % get well, isn't it wild that they can get everybody to do that based on what they tell you?
Right.
The numbers change. Well, the numbers weren't as bad as they were. We said they were going to be, and they're going like, because the term fake news has been thrown into our vocabulary, it makes everybody go, there used to be a turn on the news and the truth will be told to you. Well, where do you go for that now? And I'm not being political. Which channel do you go to? All news, no bullshit, no politics, no wink wink at the end of it. My opinion is that. And people that are not doctors making medical opinions and people die because of it, it's scary. We need to know, where's the one place we can go get the truth without,
right.
And none of us have that answer, do we? That's the scariest part about all of this.
Yeah,
we don't know the truth about anything. Fuck politics.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck all that. Fuck religion. No offense. I'm just meaning it in the sense of using that as the litmus test for truth.
Right.
Because those people are not always telling the truth. Isn't that interesting?
Well, it's. I mean, I think sometimes what we can do is maybe, I don't have an answer either, but if someone who's not a doctor or an expert on pandemics says something, probably don't trust that person.
Who doesn't have an opinion? I mean, what are you saying? Don't trust somebody that is a doctor?
No. I'm just saying, if you hear some news that was, well, first we have to vet everything and go to multiple sources, which is on us. But I'm just saying, if someone who's not experienced with pandemic,
I think you don't know what you're talking about. It's not helping people. I said, shut up if you don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, but sadly, people like to say
my opinion is that the aliens dropped this disease on the gun and you take that as fact. That's insanity.
Yeah.
Well,
my friends, I don't know what to say. I'm scared like everybody else.
I think on a smaller level, the idea is that you make your own ecosystem of people and experts. So like if you have a friend that's a doctor that you depend on, like you said, you have a friend that's a doctor. Yeah. So like we've been starting to like have show guests like meet up on Sundays and we all talk about the music business, try to figure out things. We have a meetup for the community and Zoom, kind of like what we're doing, but it's on a little bit bigger scale and it's not broadcast. But like people are coming together. And I think they're realizing that, like what you're saying, Steve, you can't necessarily vet all the information that's given to you by for-profit media. and it's even hard to sort through it sometimes, you know? So like, I think what's happening here is people are kind of unplugging from that a little bit, and they're connecting with each other, and they're building their own ecosystems of reliability and trust and good information, which, you know, I guess it's kind of like having good friends, you know?
Small mutual of trust. Like I see my little children, and they live with their, well, they're with their mom a lot of the time. We used to split them 50-50. And now what's going on for them, because of the insanity of people who have kids in school, like, you know what, we have to be teachers now. I bullshitted my way through school. I'm in like no help with my daughter's Common Core math right now. I can tell you that right now. So their mom is, you know, he went to college and she's got that together. I can't even have the tutors that I had for the math come to the house anymore. So we're doing a little differently, where they come to my house for a few hours in the afternoon, and I keep them until after dinner. And my nanny of 36 years drives them, and she only lives with her mom and only sees her mom. My ex-wife doesn't have anybody coming by, and hasn't since then. And I'm trusting her to tell me this, you know. And look at the kids tell me. I go, hey, is anybody? No one's seen. They've only seen 3 or 4 people. So when you talk about that gene pool or whatever, wherever you mean, like only a very few people that you absolutely trust to tell you the truth that you know are not sick can get together, and gradually that might get a little bit more people and a little bit more people, and that's going to take time. There's no way to skip over that part.
Yeah,
and
well,
the question
gene pools and communities can be crazy as well too. So I mean, it's not even a sure thing that the community you're building with so-called trusted people is not going to be.
And then there's the whole thing like about, well, when once it gets hot again, it'll all go away. Well, my oldest daughter is married and lives in Vegas, where it's still really hot during the day, and it's still very much there. Now there's a town that's dead. How many jobs do you think were lost in Las Vegas? You know, people that are, you know, that's their whole 24-hour life. Whether it be entertainers, dealers, hotel owners, and, you know, staff that works there, the chefs, the bartender, you know what I mean? This is really heavy, man. This is really not, this is no joke, man. This is not something we can, you know, even find a little light way to make a joke about. I mean, poor comedians. I mean, what kind of jokes do you make about this, you know?
Well, what do you think? I mean, yeah, it's insurmountable, and we can't solve it at the moment. And we don't know.
Man, I can't wait until this happens. This happens, and we can all be together again and be friends. I hope we can do this, and sooner the better. But every day we have to sit and wait, and we have to just maybe put this positive energy. If everybody really takes a look at themselves and go, we really haven't been very good to Mother Earth. Now, I know it's crazy to say that that has anything to do with anything, because it probably is crazy to say that. But at the same time, how long are we going to be doing this for? I've been told a year.
Yeah,
that's a scary thought.
That, yeah,
you know, it's for a year, and if you don't work from your home, how long can you keep that up? I mean, and I sound like Debbie Downer, and I don't want to be that guy. People going, fuck it, why should I live? Why don't I just go take it out? Because it will get better, it will be different, and we'll learn how to deal with it, because we have no choice. There's no choice. You got to get through this.
It sounds kind of dumb because, you know, like I said, the problems are so insurmountable. It's hard to even take a look at them and go, well, what do we start? But what do we as musicians do?
Let's just say this right now. There could be somebody right now going, look at that asshole. He's got money. He's not have nothing to worry about. Fuck him. Well, I do save money, and I have made a good living. At the same time, my bills don't stop, and I've got a ridiculous nut. And I've been divorced twice, and I got a lot of crap going on, and my bills don't stop. My dog doesn't stop barking.
Usually it's my dog too.
Same amount of headaches to maybe with a different amount of zeros at the end of it. It's just the same headache as your fear of going, my God, I'm not going to get through the year. What about this? I mean, I've spent a shitload of money on taxes, man. I got fucking beat up. I did well, but I got the shit beat out of me. They torture you for that.
Are you you're in California, right, Steve?
Yeah, LA.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well,
and you know, we're all in this together. At the bottom line is you got a kid that's hungry and you can't get food at the market. You can't go to the doctor. Doesn't matter how much money you got. You're sick. You're fucked. So sorry. And guys my age, they go, dude, I'm sorry, man. The kid gets the bed, not you. You're 62 years old. It's not gonna happen. So I'm in that position where like I'm gonna get fucked if this thing goes really bad. And I worry about my youngest son. And then I have my other kids that are, 34, 32, 12, and 9. So I mean it's a lot of worry as a parent.
Yeah,
no kidding.
for sure. Yeah, I have 3 myself.
So good. God bless. I've been very blessed. I'm very grateful for that. But I pray for the people that are having a tough time right now and that are scared about their jobs. And at some point we should do some charity work to help. I mean, that is something that artists can do, and there's rumblings about it. And I think it'll be way more than one show. I don't know if you guys got Lefset's. Bob Lefset's a buddy of mine. He's got the big blog out. He's a blogger, and he reads the stuff. And he's a buddy of mine. But he wrote this. Every year he does a April Fool's one. We did one where there was like this ultimate concert with 1 million people. And of course, my dumb ass being, I forget what day it is because it's just nobody knows what day it is anymore. It was a joke, but it was like a big show involving, getting impossible people back together to play and all this stuff. And at first I thought it was real. And I went, shit, I want in on this. I want to help. And then I realized it was a gag, but in that gag, there's a great idea. I think maybe across the world, we could do different shows with different kinds of artists and different things and donate that money to a fund that helps people that lost their homes or lost their jobs. And there's going to be a lot of people that need a lot of money. And I know everybody I know that's a musician would certainly jump at the chance to help. I know all the biggest artists in the world would, and all the other ones that have their fan bases. I mean, that is something we could for sure do to give back.
Well, that's one of the things I've always loved about the music industry is, the music industry as a whole has reached out many times when there's been a disaster or whatever and been able to raise money or help. So being a part of the industry that does reach out, how we're going to get these big artists in a room together to play these concerts is going to be interesting. But
I bet you, all you have to do is get with the biggest agencies, and there's only a handful of them. And everybody knows everybody works together. Booking, package deals anyway. So this is not weird to do. I think the hardest part is going to be everyone's going to want to do it, and how do you spread out the show? That's what I think. I think all the artists are going to be like, absolutely. Where do I sign up? We're in. We'll do whatever it is, whatever we can do to help. And maybe that would start a trend to do that to help get people out of the fear. But this is going to have to be after we get a vaccine or something. And then of course there's the people that have the fear of the vaccine and all this stuff. It's like, well, there's the fear of death, there's the fear of vaccine. What are you afraid of more? You know what I mean? Or are you afraid you're going to go to hell if you take the vaccine? I mean, there's some illogical things in all this, but at the same time, people's beliefs are very strong, and I respect them. I believe in God too. We just have a different way of doing it.
Jeff Watson said band logos on face mask merch. So one thing, Luke, I was reading I was listening to your book.
Oh, you were reading. Go ahead, man. Thank you.
I was reading your book, and it was great, by the way. I laughed my butt off the whole time. It was so awesome and funny. And
so well. I mean, geez, thank you, guys.
Well, I wanted to let you know we have something in common. My first amp was an Ampeg VT22.
Heavy motherfucker, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was heavy and loud.
Heavy and loud.
It was so loud.
I put a master volume on mine.
I didn't know what a tube amp was when I got that amp. My mom bought it for me, and it was probably about 88 when I got it.
I got mine in like early 70s.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go buy another one of those. I ended up pawning it when I was a kid or selling it or whatever.
I still got mine, but it's a great clean amp. Crank that sucker up, man. It's what Keith used on Exile on Main Street.
Well, one of the funniest stories that I read in your biography was the time that you met George Martin. And
Well,
did you
I wouldn't
tell
say
that story?
a meeting. It became a meeting. I was working at the Cherokee Studios, which is no longer there anymore, and he was working in Studio One, and I was doing a session in Studio 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And they knew I was coming. I was working all the time there, and I was a well-known wise ass even back then. And they knew I was coming, so they went out and bought a fake blow-up doll, like a sex doll, with the open mouth and various orifices for things that I can't imagine doing with a rubber doll. But it was hanging up in the air. It's going, welcome Luke. I'm like, okay, funny, the Robb brothers, God bless them, they own the studio, and they were in on the gag. And so I knew George Martin was in Studio One, and I was like all excited about maybe accidentally running into him and meeting him and just thanking him for making the records that changed my life. And as I ripped the thing down as I walked down. I went, very funny, and I kicked it, and right within that hallway, at the end of the hallway was Studio One, where the door opens up. And right as I kicked it, the door opened up, and George Martin was there, and it hit him right in the face. So I'm like, okay, this guy's gonna hate me. I didn't even know what to say to him. I was going, I'm so sorry. Oh, Mr. Martin, I'm so sorry. Gee, I don't even know what to say. You're one of my heroes, and they did this to me. He goes, oh, it's funny, it's fine. I mean, it didn't hurt him. It weighed nothing, but it was more like startling. Here's the George in a suit, just like you'd imagine him to be. Nicest man ever. He laughed. He said, it's fine, it's fine. I said, I groveled and told him he was my hero, and then I left him alone. Edit to a few years later, I'd worked on the Thriller record with Paul.
Mm.
When Michael did the Thriller record.
Yeah, the duet.
George was there, with Quincy and the whole gang. It was like ridiculous people standing in there. And I went up to George after we got the take, and everybody was happy and everything like that. And I said, you may not remember me, but you were working at Cherokee a few years ago, and I accidentally kicked the blow-up doll into you. And he goes, oh, no, I remember that. That was funny. Thank God he doesn't hate me. Like after this, just 3 or 4 years later. I've had a lot of very strange things happen.
Yeah, the book is full of hundreds of little stories like that. It's really entertaining.
They've asked me to do another one.
Yeah, somebody was asking, Sakari Willenius was asking, when's book number 2 coming out?
It's going to be called the New Testament.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I will be telling the stories I couldn't tell, and my life has taken a lot of changes since then. And there's a lot of stories I couldn't tell. They had a partial discography. Most of the stuff I've done, I quit doing sessions about 25 years ago. In the sense of doing day-to-day sessions, I mean, I'll play as a guest or a friend or something like that. But I left. There's a new group of guys, and we were in the last group of guys that showed up at work every day, not knowing what was going to happen or who we were working with. Now at least and when you have a recording session now, it's like everybody plays at the same time. It's like seeing a unicorn or something like that. It's like it doesn't happen anymore. And that's how I did my record, because I still believe that's the way the best records always were the one. Even Close to the Edge by Yes was. They were cutting in the room and playing pieces and editing them, but they were playing that stuff. Those were takes. That wasn't like each guy punching in at one at a time. People forget that about the old records. Those guys played and sang that stuff, man. The Beatles made their first record in 2 days? Yeah. Side 1 and side 2. It's pretty good, huh?
We've been talking. A lot of the artists who've been on the podcast have talked about they're recording stuff now too, but. And I always bring it back to you and the session cats, because, it's just amazing to me that you would go in, maybe it's a 2-hour session, you're supposed to cut a hit single. You didn't have time to practice it or edit it in. Like you've told me before the light went on, you had to do it. And a lot of times all you had was a sheet that had, 12 bars of G, on it.
90%. from what I did.
Yeah.
Because because listen, I can read music, but I'm not a great reader. Ask anybody who's ever worked with me. They knew I'd come up with a good part. I had to. You know, when I first started doing sessions, I can read music enough to get through any recording session level of reading, but like TV film stuff, man, I made the mistake of taking a couple of those sessions. Boy, you know, my sphincter was tight on those, man. When you get the piano part in D flat, it's a sphincter tightening. You don't have a lot of time, you know, to get it together, especially if you're playing with dates where they want to get through a lot of things quickly. So they expect you to be able to do anything.
I thought of a great idea. If you had a recording studio, and if anybody implements this idea, I know about it. You could do like a little take called One Day, and you could set a limitation. Like people can book your studio, but they have 1 day to get the entire track done, and that's it. No exceptions. Like sign a contract, make it kind of a limitation.
What do you mean one?
Well, like for example, you know, like in Pro Tools, you can work on it forever and take forever and do chins and everything. The limitations of like tape back in the day, where you would only have so much tape, and you would have, you know, Satriani talked about that in his biography about the value of the limitation. You know, what do you think about something like that?
Because you have to play, and you play differently that way. It is true. Like when I did my record, I realized that in my mind, I was keeping every solo, every take. And we didn't do more than 1 or 2 takes. And we didn't do any rehearsals. So it was very much like the old days, with the exception of a couple of the cover tunes that I did, which are obscure, but people have heard them. But the new songs that I wrote, we just came in and we ran down the chart once. And with very little written on it, other than, you know, a roadmap with, you know, how it goes with the changes. And if there's any figures, we wrote those out. But generally, it was like, you know, play what you know you should play. And the trust is in hiring the right guys and being the right casting director as a record producer, which is really what they do. You know, a good record producer is a good casting director in terms of, if it's not a self-contained band, or also choosing material. No, that song's that's a hit. That's not. No, that didn't make it. That's great. Or work on that one, you know. That's what a record producer, trying to get the best performances out and pick the right stuff. But I don't know. I mean, there's no right or wrong way as long as the good music comes out at the end of it, and that's also subjective. So I don't know. You asked me the question. You said I appreciate the 2 people that you know, asked the question.
Well, yeah. If you guys have any questions for Steve in the comments, go ahead and ask him now. We're getting
die, motherfucker, die.
Everybody here loves you, Steve. So far, we're good. No haters yet.
I'm glad you 2 guys do, actually. You know.
Well, there, you know, to Matt's point, I think John Cunaberti, who was Joe Satriani's engineer and producer, sure, he did have this thing where it's like, you can hire me for 1 day and there's 1 microphone. That's all you get. The band sets up around the 1 mic, records the tune, you're done. Which kind of harkens back to the days, you know, Steve was talking about. It's like, yeah, man, you better.
Well, you know, 1 microphone's a little bit of a stretch, but you know, and I don't know if you actually got anybody to do that, because you really have to be good to do that.
Yeah,
and that's
you got somebody.
Yeah, see, this leads us into another area where, I mean, good is subjective, granted, but I mean, the amount of talent that one has to have to do this, like now, you have to be good now. You know, the thing that about having an endless amount of tracks and instant recall, it's the greatest thing in the world. It's also the worst thing in the world, because if you can get a little box that can make you sound brilliant when you're not, it's kind of not fair. It's a great tool to use, say, if you have a brilliant performance and 1 note's bad or something like that. Fuck, right? But if you're sitting there and every vocal is fake, it's like people accepting their Grammy for best vocal of the year, and it's, you know, you should give it to the guy who did the Melodyne. You
know? Frank Rittman, who I know is from Germany, asked, could you tell us about a session you did that went completely haywire?
No. Yes, we used to do crazy shit when we were young. At one point, I'll tell you one that you can tell because it's, or I can tell anyway. We were doing a session back in the day, man. One of those, I forget who the artist was because many times we didn't know who the artist was when we got the calls. I'd find out from like say Jay Graydon would go, man, hey man, are you at Sunset Sound on Monday at noon? I'm going, yeah, man. Do you know who the artist is? Blah, blah. And then we get our info. Oh, who else is on it? Yeah, Foster's on it and Jeff. And I'm going, oh, great. I haven't talked to Jeff. And we'd find out, or you walk down the hallway, you see Lee Sklar's trunks in the hallway. Go, oh, great, Sklar's on the gig. And you know it's going to be a great day. You're going to be with your buddies all day. And the musicianship was at a level to where you knew that we knew what to do. We just would take whatever they threw at us, oftentimes some stuff that was fairly mediocre, and go, and they just give you the chord changes. And I'd look at Jay, or Jay would look at me. He goes, look, I got the muted part. You play the pretty shit. And we knew what that meant. Or they go, the artist would go, well, Lukather, I want you to do this. So I go, no, I'm sitting next to Dean Parks, man. This is the guy that you want to have solo on your record. And Dean would go, oh, no, fuck it, man. It's cool. When in fact they should have had Dean do that, because Dean Parks is probably one of the greatest unsung heroes there is. Ask anybody that ever sat next to him. And, it's just that we'd have, the guys that worked together. Well, me and Ray Parker had a thing. Ray was funky and I was the rock guy. So we immediately knew where we were supposed to do. So it was really easy to work together with guys that you knew were going to bring it. Jeff Picaro, you always knew you were going to get a take with Jeff. Come on. Nobody played better groove drums than him, in my opinion, ever. And I don't know, man. It was just a thing. And, once you were accepted and you were one of the guys, which I was very, very fortunate to be, living in the right place at the right time, and went to the right high school and met the right people. I mean, there's no bullshit about that. I know that. But once you get in the door, you don't get called back if you don't play nothing. You can get, somebody to recommend you for a gig, but if you suck on it, that bad news travels fast. Just as much as like, no, that guy's actually really good, you should hire him. You're hoping for that. And then every time you sat in a chair, it was that feeling. Every time you worked for somebody new, you had that nervous feeling of like, I got to make this guy dig what I do, so that not only does the producer look good, but the artist and everybody else does, and all the guys in the room are like, great, we're going to get this done. And he had, that's how the reputation starts. That's how you got into the scene. Now, how do you do that if it's only file sharing? No new guys are going to get a real shot. And that sucks.
Dude, the story you told in your book about when Michael Jackson called you on the phone for the Thriller gig.
Sorry, I hit something wrong. What was that again?
The story you told in your about when Michael Jackson called you at the house to 8 in the morning to call you up for the gig.
That's all I got to say. It was 1981.
Yeah.
I had, crazier times. Yeah, that was a funny one, and because I really didn't believe it was him. Who's gonna? Michael is just coming off the wall. Is one of the biggest stars in the world already before Thriller. So expected to get a call from Quincy's office, or Joanne is the girl that would book the gigs for him, not Michael, at 8 in the morning.
Right.
Asshole line going, messing with me. I'm trying to sleep. And finally I realized it was him. I had Quincy's office called me and said, you better call him back. That was really him. I'm like, oh, geez. Done that a few times. Anyway, what can I say? I talk too much. Your turn.
Well,
I think we're at the top pretty much.
Yeah, we're at the.
Well, thank you for inviting me on to bore your listeners for an hour. It was great hanging with you, seeing you, Michael. I hope you stay well. Matt, it was great to meet you.
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
Great, Steve.
Jeff, I love you, and all the rest of you guys that I know that ask questions. Love and peace. I hope we get through this, and I hope everybody stays safe and well. And God bless.
I'll see you at the other side of it, Steve. We know for sure.
I look forward to giving the hugs in person, guys. Okay. And you guys all take care of yourselves, okay?
All right.
Thanks for having me, man. I'll catch you next time.
Of course.
Bye now.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Peace out. All right, guys. Well, that was an awesome interview. Thanks for tuning in. It's super, super cool. And just be sure to check us out on Sundays, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for guests and 2 to 4 p.m. for community members. Kingdom of Rock Backstage Pass. Check it out on Facebook. See you guys.
Thanks for tuning in so much, because Steve was going to kind of lay low through all of this. So it was really great for us that he decided to do this for all of us, for the Kingdom of Rock, because I don't know if you're going to hear many interviews with him during this time. So this was a rare moment. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a privilege. It was super cool. And thanks for setting this up, Michael. All right.
Yeah.
Kingdom of Rock out. Peace
Kingdom
out.
of Rock.